in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes. All right, approval of previous meeting minutes.
Columbia County makes a motion to approve.
You're doing
Second Dodge.
that. Second by Dodge. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
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 All right, reports, visiting legislative officials. I have Mr. Mark Warren in the room.
Yes, sir.
Give us the good news. Oh.
I don't know where you need me so the phone will pick me up. You need to use this.
That should be on if the green light is on, it's on.
How about that phone sitting up there?
This one's on, there's one of these.
Yeah, there's one up there. This is informal.
Kathy Schmidt, Green Lake County Administrator.
Is now joining.
All right, go ahead.
All right, yeah, well, I don't have a huge report for you. Obviously, the legislature's out of session, as it normally would be at this time. Everything that's pretty much going on right now is viewed through one of two prisms. Either it's the presidential election, it's all about that, and whatever camp you want to be in, or whatever way you want to splice things because of whichever camp you're in on that. And then, of course, COVID is a primary issue right now in the state. And beyond that, I think that after this election's over and we can focus on business and not the rhetoric of the presidential races, I think that just the counties will be important partners in the discussion on what we should be doing as far as resources. I'm certainly one that's advocating to try to bring more resources to the county level for public health. I think that there are a lot of things that we should be doing with our county public health. That means more state resources that would help with communication and more staffing to help them with, especially now. I know certainly here in this last couple of weeks, there been some chamber presentations and stuff with Abby here at Dodge County that they're overwhelmed. And I think that we have a system there that would allow us to respond better, and that there's resources, there's hundreds of millions yet in CARES Act money at the state level that you just haven't spent, that could be pushed out to the counties to help. And so I think that I've had some discussions already with the Wisconsin Public Health Association representatives along those lines, and I imagine that the counties association would be interested in that as well. With that, I guess I can take your questions, if you have any.
So
Looks like it's brewing one up.
So if this money from routes to recovery, or whatever you wanna call it, doesn't get used and gets sent back November 7th or 6th is the deadline to get them in. So is that money gonna be earmarked for schools then?
I don't know that I know what they're gonna do with that. I mean,
I think to some extent, Russell, that ends up being a federal decision,
Yeah,
not a state decision.
But
They're
that's
the
a
ones
rumor.
who put the limitations on what can go.
I hear you, but I mean, that's been a rumor flying around that the school districts wanted to get their
They can
hands on
use
any
it.
money that wasn't used, so.
Well, I know with Sharon County, one of the things we're doing is outreach to the townships and the municipalities to ask them to, I guess, commit their monies
Yeah.
to the county, because a lot of times with limited staffing and part-time people, they don't have the time to do all the paperwork and everything else, so we've been doing that. But I appreciate you being here today. I think the real problem, at least that we're having, and I think a number of other counties, I know Door County as well, is with contact tracing.
Right.
As the numbers go up, it just gets out of control. And we've been hiring people, training people to do contact tracing. That's really where we're falling
Well,
short.
and that's kind of a good example of what I was referring to. You know, this Department of Health, the state level, for some reason, months ago, started hiring contact tracers. And And I know at that time in my conversations with Washington County, they're like, why? Why are they, well, we need to hire them, they need to give us the resources. We're the ones that are working with the calls on our local people that are testing positive and stuff, and then the state hired some of them, and then a lot of them didn't pan out, and they aren't there anymore from what I understand, and so that's a good example of, you all have a department of public health so let's bulk that up and give them the resources they need to do that stuff.
Well, and we've had that opportunity, it's just finding those people. It isn't like the state sucked them all up in this, all around the state, it's just finding people. And plus, the other issue we have in Jefferson County, we need bilingual ones, because we've had significant outbreaks in the Hispanic community. And they just aren't as easy to find, that's what it comes down to. And of course, you've had turnover, because it's gonna be a burnout job these days, because they try to call these people, and they go apeshit over the phone, like it's an invasion of their privacy, so, you know, it's.
That's just, yeah, that's the overall thing. You mentioned the Hispanic community. One of the things, I guess there is some good news out there. In Washington County, we have a family health clinic, which I know has a presence, I believe, in 10 different counties. And they really have taken a lot of pressure off of us, because they've undertaken to do contact tracing and education for the Hispanic community, primarily the agricultural workers.
Mhm.
And boy, that's just been a relief for
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
Do you have UMOS in your area?
What's that?
UMOS, do you have a UMOS office in your area?
I don't know.
Okay, because that, that, they deal with the Hispanic population, the farm workers and things like that, so, that might be, someone that can help you out with the bilingual
Yeah.
issues.
No, Beaver Dam has one, I don't know if
It's just,
Watertown does or not.
it's just finding them, it's just
Yeah.
finding people to do it.
Right.
Any other questions or comments for Mark?
I do, this has nothing to do with COVID. We have a situation in Washington County that's really, I can't believe it's a situation, but our DA left. And so we had an assistant DA that applied to be appointed, and he was of the wrong political party, saying it nicely. And so he wasn't selected, so he left us and went to where he came from. I think Kenosha or Racine, one of those counties. But anyway, we had, the governor appointed someone for our DA, someone that was in Wood County. She came, she was there for 2 months. She walked out of the courthouse one day, and we haven't heard from her since. She's running for office, however. But we have tried, WCA has tried to get us some help and to get us at least through to the governor's office to explain the situation. Nothing, they won't take the calls. So she never called, she never emailed, she never came back, so I don't know. I mean, our judge is beyond upset.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do, how do you get through to the governor in a case like that?
Well, if the counties association can't get through to them, we're probably not gonna have any better ability to do that from a legislative perspective, but, I would reach out to your state rep or a state senator in that area. I mean, was that Peterson, or who's Washera?
Well, we're split. It's
Yeah.
Peterson and Krug, and then Teston and Olson.
Okay.
And
So I would ask them, to reach out through the ledge liaison's office of the governor, because sometimes Zach Madden's, who our contact is there, sometimes he's been responsive on things. He was very responsive to me a few weeks ago when the Hartford mayor was trying to get a hold of the governor's office and not having any success. And, that worked when I went through him. So maybe, talk to Peterson or Krug and have them try that route.
I know Senator Teston tried.
Oh, did he? Okay.
I think he tried, and, and this happened, I mean, she walked out June 28th, so we've been without a district attorney that whole time.
And do you have an assistant district attorneys?
They said we have one hired now,
Okay.
but in the interim, all we had was 2 part-time former district attorneys
Retirees.
that were retired and, you know, and they came back to help us out.
Special appointees or something.
Yeah, but it has been a disaster. You know, I mean, they were good, but it's still a disaster.
Is now joining.
So, I think the frustration is that we cannot get through to the governor's office to, you know, I think the call that was set up between WCA and us and the governor's office got switched to the administration office, and he really couldn't help us either, so. He's been trying hard to help us, but it, you know, it's a bad situation.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But I think there has to be a way that we can, you know, be heard.
Right.
Our local paper wanted to do an article on it and, you know, to let people know, and the governor's office won't even answer her phone calls,
Sure.
so. I don't think that's how things should be run.
No, and it certainly shows how important those appointments are, and that
Yes.
they can't just be partisan appointments. They need to be people that are qualified and that are committed to working for the community or the county in this case.
Well, you know, a district attorney's office shouldn't be partisan anyway, you know. Either way you look at it, it should be a nonpartisan person.
Well, you can say that about anyone in the elected offices.
Well,
That's certainly been something that's been debated and discussed for a long time already, and there's good arguments to be made on both sides of it, but.
Well, I could say that as someone who was in Nebraska, it's referred to as a county attorney, but I held that position, and it's elected on a partisan basis, it is here. But the difference was amongst prosecutors, there wasn't, we judged each other not on partisan affiliation, but on whether or not they were good prosecutors. So I see where you're coming from, but.
It's really the
but
same
what
thing as here.
what we were concerned with was quality, and I think that's where we fell short here.
Right.
I mean, what's the difference for a county clerk, what party they belong to?
Right,
Well,
exactly.
It shouldn't make any difference.
Great.
just
All right, any other questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark.
All right, yeah, we'll probably see
All
you
right.
next time you post your interview.
Yeah.
Good day.
Yep.
Very well.
Marcy from WCA.
All right. I'm gonna take over where you left. All right. Good morning.
Morning.
So, a little update from WCA. Obviously, everybody knows that the annual conference had to be canceled this year due to everything that's going on in the world. But I did want to draw your attention to our website. In lieu of the conference, we did switch some of the breakout sessions that we would have offered for educational purposes to a virtual platform. Some of those have already taken place, and though you wouldn't have an opportunity now to participate live and ask questions, the ones that have already occurred, you can still watch and learn from the information that was presented. Those that have already taken place related to cyber threats to public safety, promoting diversity on county boards, and pretrial justice. Those are posted to our website. You can find it right on our homepage. It's at the bottom of the homepage. And then there are 2 more opportunities coming up. These are all free. All you have to do is register, and then you can participate. The 2 that are coming up, one is November 2nd, and the 9th. On the 2nd, we're having Serving Our Aging Population, and on the 9th is Preparing for the Emergency You Hope Never Happens, and that deals with communication and the media. Also, we have released our legislative agenda for the upcoming session, the 2021-22. So in October, the October magazine, there was a little insert in there that had the legislative agenda. If you didn't get it or you want another copy, I did bring one, so let me know before I leave, and I'll pass it out to you. So I just wanted to point that out. It is divided and organized by our issue areas. and so that is in there. We did start presenting this information to the governor's office in the first of many, in a series of meetings that we're having with the governor's staff, in which then they will present that information to their budget, office in hopes of including some of this, in the governor's budget, in the spring. I think many of you might have seen in the papers that the governor's, the governor's new order to limit indoor gatherings to 25% was temporarily blocked by a judge out of Sawyer County. This stemmed from a lawsuit by the Tavern League. So as of right now, there's a temporary injunction on that. I know that I also read recently that I believe it was the Restaurant Association was worried that half of the restaurants in Wisconsin may not make it through the COVID-19 pandemic. So, whether you agree or disagree, I just thought it was important to note that that judge had temporarily blocked the governor's order. So kind of get to see what happens with that. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Another important piece of information that came out late last week, the governor did announce a new set of broadband grants called the Broadband Connectors Pilot Program. There was a few awardees of this pilot program that is, it's given out between the PSC and the WEDC, and the goal is obviously to connect residents in underserved areas of the state more quickly. And again, it's a pilot program, so though the counties that did receive this aren't present in the room, they're hoping to learn from this and then obviously expand. But so 3 tribal nations received this, 1 school district, the town of Cross, St. Croix County, and Fond du Lac County. And so it is a learning opportunity for the governor, the PSC, and the WEDC. And then hopefully this will benefit the entirety of the state, because obviously broadband is a serious concern to everyone. I know there was a conversation going on about it while we were all in the room. And obviously with the pandemic, the availability and access to high-speed internet has become increasingly more important to residents of the state. So with that, that is my update, and I'm happy to take any questions. And again, I did bring a copy of the agenda. If anybody didn't grab it out of the magazine or are curious what we're working on at the association on behalf of our membership.
Well, I don't necessarily have a question, but piggyback on what Marcy said, NACO, the National Association of Counties, is also doing some virtual events. I know, for instance, this Wednesday, from 3 to 5, they have a federal policy summit on understanding county broadband issues, which I know we've talked about here in a previous meeting. That's from 3 to 5. I'm sure if you just go to the NACO website, you can see what they're offering as well.
Yeah, I think that, I think it's Wednesday and Thursday is sort of a 2-day virtual event.
Yes, Thursday is Spotlight on Counties, yes.
Yep, they're offering several different workshops virtually. I was actually signed up for that one, and I have a meeting now during that time, so I can't do it. But there's several different learning opportunities through NACO, so if you're a member, you should be able to register free of charge for that one as well. Any other questions or comments for me?
Comment, we did get a broadband, this new grant, we got approved, but now it's gotta be spent so quick, and now these companies, and of course, this company that wants to work, is working with us and Jefferson, but, the county's got rules about setting these towers and stuff.
Yeah.
And, they're expecting us to drop all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
Green Lake County.
Is now exiting.
and so it's, it gets to be
I know.
a tough match, to get that done, and, I don't know if we're gonna make it or not.
Yeah, I know, with the broadband grants, kind of a list of
Right.
requirements. So there is some positive points to it, and there's also the governmental red tape that comes along with it as well, so.
And then, of course, this guy is also doing work in Jefferson County, and he's telling us that, I don't have to do all this in Jefferson, so we don't know if that's true or not, we haven't really checked into that, so. They're relaxing it to get it going, and, we're holding steadfast that we need to follow rules, because otherwise it's gonna be, if you don't follow the county rules, then sometimes somebody else is gonna say something that we relax it for them, so. That's my comment. We'll work through it as much as we can. And all we can, so. All right. Any other questions for her here? All right.
Thank you.
So any ideas about, are we having the February thing yet,
The
or?
legislative exchange?
Yeah,
I mean,
that building, the concourse is tighter than sin, as far as social distancing or anything in
yeah.
there.
It was too small before COVID.
yeah, right. I mean, the hope was that because the annual conference was canceled, that the legislative exchange would go on, and then some of the things that we missed offering because of the conference would potentially get morphed into the legislative exchange. Obviously at this time, it's just too early to know. With Wisconsin, being at the top of the infection rates, and I don't know, it's just too early to tell. Unfortunately, I know that everyone at the association is just chomping at the bit to, me included, I love my family, but I'm ready to go back to the office. I love my children and my husband, but I am ready to work from an office setting again. So I don't know. It's a great question. I'm trying to stay optimistic that we might have some sense of normalcy by that time, or even if we pushed it back a couple of months and had it at a little bit later date, that we'd have some sense of normalcy. But I think it all depends on the rates coming down and whether or not there'd be a vaccine and
Right.
who would get it. So fingers crossed.
I assume that decision will be made at the December board meeting.
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be some discussions on it. Again, I don't know if it would be too premature or not. I don't know. But definitely, because I think you all as board members decided on this the annual conference at the July board meeting?
Right, I think so.
Yeah, so a couple of months in advance, so it'll be decided sooner rather than later, I'm guessing, whether or not we push forward or, but then with these rising numbers, I can't imagine now that we'd be able to make a decision to press it forward.
It's gonna make it worse.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, program, let's see, Abby. All right, we have the program is to be COVID panel discussion, which is, Abby must be tied up with this one, as far as us.
We have Val, she's here from Commission on Aging, she's our nutrition specialist, and, would you like to hear some of the things she's doing?
Right, let's just go around the room and maybe you wanna come up to the mic.
Yeah, wait up the mic,
Is it, are you people on the phone hearing everything, Vern?
For the most part, yes.
Oh, cool, thank you so
Yeah,
much, I
yeah.
appreciate that, thank you.
I am Valerie from Washera County, Department of Aging. Just coming today to talk about, what Washera County and specifically our nutrition and aging program has kind of done differently, continue doing, so that we can obviously serve our seniors and keep our programs going, but in a safe manner. So in general, again, I am the nutrition program manager for the Washera County Department of Aging. So we do home delivered meals. We have senior dining centers where seniors come to eat lunch. That since March, those dining centers have been closed. So anybody who was eating at those dining locations has if they wanted to, could be transitioned to home delivered meals. And, so that has really increased our numbers for those people receiving home delivered meals. Again, starting in March, we actually over doubled the amount of people that receive home delivered meals within a week span, basically, once we shut down our dining centers, which I believe is similar in all other counties throughout the state as well. So, within a week's time, we added quite a few more people to get on those home delivered meals, because of course people were scared to go out, still continue to try to stay safe at home and, not milling about the county or to the stores as often. So, we are serving a lot more people receiving the home delivered meals. We also kind of came up with some other different services that we could help related to nutrition and related to getting people food who don't want to get out or can't safely get out. So we implemented a bulk frozen meal pickup option where those who can get out of their home and can drive, some of our dining locations, they can come pick up frozen meals, so then throughout the week they can just use them throughout whenever they need to or want to. They can pop them or they're in the freezer and they pop them in the microwave and heat those meals up. So for those a little more able to get out, but again, they stay in their vehicle and our staff just kind of puts those meals in and they can get a week's worth of meals and then pick up a new set of meals the following week. We've also started a grab and go evening meal option. So, and that is just a couple times a month where we, again, just as a different option where people can come pick up an evening meal. Those are usually at this time, a salad or a sandwich or those type of meals. And then we are looking forward to, we are going to offer a grab and go Thanksgiving meal. It will be a hot meal. It'll be the turkey, stuffing, pumpkin pie, all the works in between. So we are going to be offering that. We think it will be a great service to the community because we don't know if all of those other churches and other places will be having those type of Thanksgiving meals. We also, we don't know if people are comfortable seeing their family or traveling or won't have the opportunity to see their family or get that Thanksgiving meal. So we think it's really important. It will be delivered or be able to pick up. Our home delivered meal participants always receive that Thanksgiving meal that Wednesday right before Thanksgiving, so that's something that we always do. So we thought, why not on that same day, have it available for people to pick up as well. So we're working through, some of those details and how that might roll out, but we think that's just something that will be really special to people and offering it out to the community. As far as those receiving home delivered meals, we've implemented, more safety precautions than usual or than in the past. So our drivers are no longer going into the homes. They are dropping the meals off at the doorway or hanging out on the doorknob or setting them, on a chair or a table right outside the entrance. Our drivers are wearing gloves, masks, changing their gloves in between, keeping their distance. So one part of that is, obviously for all of us too, is more of that social isolation. People getting home delivered meals always look forward to that person coming each day and, having a couple minutes to chat. But now that our drivers have more people to serve to, and then also not going into the home, so they still at least get to see somebody each delivery day, but they don't have as many minutes to sit and chat, unfortunately. But our drivers we are so lucky to have the drivers we have. They're so committed to, to keeping and delivering those meals. So people are still really appreciating that they even receive that, that we keep the program going. And it's really important for those who can't get out. And we have a small amount of people that can't get to the door because again, they have a hardship. So we do have a few, handful of homes that our drivers do go into the home. It's just a real quick, set the meal down and get out and, just say hello and keep their distance inside the home. And for that, we have a list of who that is, and our staff does call those participants each delivery day to make sure, you don't have a fever, you don't have a cough, that it's safe for our drivers to go in. they still would not be technically considered a close contact because they're in for, you know, again, a minute or two and then they're out. But again, just any, precautions that we can put into place that are safe for our drivers as well as for all of the participants delivering to. We are also doing, for that kind of isolation, socialization, we have our staff or a couple volunteers helping to make weekly phone visit calls to those who were going out to the dining center and getting that socializing, and now that those are closed, so we are doing weekly at least once a week, weekly phone visit calls just from staff or volunteers who are just a quick hello. They can talk for 5 minutes. We have one guy who likes to talk a lot, so he's talking for 2 hours, but again, just to get that socialization at least once a week, that we know that we're kind of checking on people and just to give them somebody to talk to. And then our staff is calling, so those home delivered meal participants as well as those that were going to the dining centers. And just kind of just to mention that, our staff is also looking for any of those comments that people make that, might make a concern for them, such as, oh yeah, I'm not feeling so well, and, well, what does that mean? And, any COVID related questions or whatever, we try to work that through. So, if they need to get a ride to get tested or, just to talk to their doctor or whatever. So, again, our staff is really in tune with some of those concerns that the participants have, or, well, this person, seems to be more lonely than usual or whatever. So, so we kind of connect people to those resources that might be needed at this time. And then we have had a small number of people that receive home delivered meals that have told us that they weren't feeling well, or we've had 1 or 2 that have told us that they are COVID positive. So we do work with those people to safely get them their food. So again, we already are putting those precautions into place, so we're not putting our drivers at risk. And then we just work on a case-by-case basis with those participants, as far as, maybe we can deliver just once a week where either a staff or volunteer would drop off the meals, again, not having any contact with that person, and, so that person can still get food, but again, more, or I guess, less contact, obviously the better. So we've only had a few cases that at least have told us, but again, it's up to them, so we have to put those precautions into place, because of course anybody could have it, and not know it as well. So again, we are comfortable that our drivers are, following those precautions, and we have those in place. So and then kind of aside from the home delivered meals or the meals in general, we are offering grocery delivery. We have our transportation service through the Department of Aging. So even if the person isn't comfortable going to the store, we can do grocery delivery. So if they are able to submit online, if they're able to do that, submit their grocery order online, we can pick it up for them and drop it off at their home. Or even if they have troubles with navigating the internet or whatever, our staff can kind of walk them through that. Or maybe they have a family member who's willing to submit their order, but then our transportation can pick it up and deliver to the home. We are having a little bit of a tough time with people who, or I guess volunteer drivers who would be willing to transport a COVID positive person or a person having symptoms and needing to go test or whatever. So that's been a challenge for us, is having enough, or having transportation for a person to get the medical help or to get tested or whatever. So we do have a few drivers who are willing to do that transport, but they still need to get fitted for an N95 mask, because again, you don't want them traveling in a small vehicle with the person, and then they'd be required to have a 14-day quarantine just because they drove the person. So that is in the process. We do have a few volunteers, but we're working on that process of getting them fitted the training on that and things like that. So, I guess in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're doing. I've been on some conference calls with some other counties, so I believe other counties are doing similar things to that with, you know, obviously, tweaked a little bit per county, but, yeah, that's some of the things that we've been up to. So, again, it's important to keep those people in their homes and, you know, safe as possible and getting them that important nutrition as well as the socializing in a different way, of course, but. Any questions for me, or?
Well, just to, again, to piggyback on what Val said, from a broader perspective, one of the things that we've
Is
tried.
now joining.
One of the things that we've tried to do with Sheriff County is to formulate a unified mission for all the county departments. So Val's department takes care of the elderly, feeding them, et cetera, the educational programs. But we've also, we don't like that to be just an isolated mission where they're just doing it. So one of the things we've done with COVID, as you all know, COVID has increased the workload for some departments. It's had no effect on others, and it's actually even resulted in a decrease for some departments. We've been repurposing employees to do things such as deliver meals to the elderly. We've been doing it for contact tracing and things of that nature. The other thing, just from a more long-term perspective, is we have some departments where their workload increases at particular times of the year. We've been trying to transition more to having floating employees who are cross-trained so that we can plug them in for these emergency or high workload type situations. And I think we've done a great job of in caring for the elderly. The only downside is, and there's really nothing we can do about it, is we're keeping people's bodies nourished, but their minds, their socialization has been limited due to this damn disease, and that's where our real problem is. But Val and her team does a great job.
Yeah, to mention what he was saying about other departments, we did have our zoning department, again, when they were a little bit slower in the springtime, and with our big influx of all the new participants, they helped us all out temporarily, actually, for delivery of meals, and really with our mapping of basically all those 50 new people that we got in a week, you know, they helped us plot them out in with their mapping system so that we could figure out which driver got what, and we actually added an additional route to, you know, to cater or to deliver to all of those new participants. So our zoning department helped out tremendously during that time, especially that quick rush of people to begin with in March and April. So again, so thankful for that other department who, again, was maybe a little bit slower at the time, but obviously they've ramped up now, so they haven't been able to help us as much, but really that initial time when was such a help. Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Abby, are you on the phone? Abby, are you on the phone? Apparently not. Again, Abby? Okay.
Well, Russ, do you think it might be a good idea just to have county representatives? What's
Yeah.
working, what's not?
I thought she was coming on, we called her. She was gonna come on, but she's not there right now, so go ahead.
Well, Sheriff County's already talked plenty, so what's going on in
For
Jefferson?
Jefferson County, we've got what we call a Community Partners Program. We've been dealing with this since the spring, and it was, again, trying to coordinate all the departments together and the local chambers of commerce, et cetera, to try to get everybody on the same page without having to become more draconian. But I do agree, our health and our human services department has taken a lot of pressure particularly for mental health issues, but also, people just out of work, at least temporarily, and so there's a lot of pressure on that, with them. We have had, mass testing sites every other weekend at our fairgrounds, but apparently there's money running out for the National Guard. I mean, last weekend, we had 900 go through weekend before, 900 go through, and this upcoming one, they said we can only take a 300 capacity, which is a shame, because our problems are going up, and our abilities to deal with it are not. And it's gonna be a chore. And of course, we have we still meet once a week, every Wednesday morning. We have an EOC meeting where all of our hospitals meet to get our hospital people, UW Whitewater, our health department, our human services department, our highway department, the sheriff's department, the local police association, the EMS association. We all get together on a Zoom thing every Wednesday morning, update everybody who's got problems, who needs PPE, who needs this, who needs that, where can we coordinate together? And includes, there are 2 hospitals plus both hospitals in Oconomowoc, which are in Waukesha County. And we had about 10 days, about a week ago, one of our hospitals reached capacity.
Oh.
So, and for at least for 8 hours. So it's not getting better, it's gonna get worse, and it's probably gonna get considerably worse over the next 6 to 12 weeks, as everybody goes indoors. So that's where we're at, and we're obviously, we talked earlier, we're looking for more contact tracers, but as is everybody else. But everything that goes
Deputy
out,
Smith, Green Lake County Administrator.
everything that goes out
Is
from
now
us
exiting.
has something on it about our community health partner, or community partners. Goes out with every email. The idea, you guys gotta keep after this, keep after this, keep after this until. And I think the biggest planning issue is gonna come down is when we do get a vaccine, is getting the vaccine to everybody.
Well, and there's gonna be a big fight on the national level, who gets priority.
Well, sure.
And then you gotta produce, well, billions of doses if you're talking worldwide. And then we have the problem with disinformation, with people saying that this is a mind control thing or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I do that with the measles vaccine.
Yeah.
That's a whole other animal in itself, but I look back to when I was a kid, and most people, well, or may remember this, is when we went to the massive polio vaccinations in the mid-60s, where they just lined everybody up in a whole city, and everybody from A to F came at 10 in the morning, and F to whatever, and they just kept, and we all walked through schools, and everybody got their polio vaccines. Now, I don't know if we're gonna do it that way this time, but, because I remember that was in the summer. I remember standing there and my dad getting mad at my little brother because he thought he was gonna get a shot. It was the oral one, but just shut up, you're just gonna have to drink it. I'll never forget that.
I'm so old, I remember getting the shot.
Me too, yeah, I had both.
And the worst part is we had to trudge up all these stairs to get to the doctor's office, and getting us all. None of us wanted to go.
Sauk County, have you got any comments back there?
Well, our health director's last day was Wednesday.
I heard that.
I heard about that.
So we actually spent a good portion of the last couple of weeks just kind of restructuring everything, because you'd be surprised to learn there aren't too many people who want to be a health director right now. So we've actually, emergency management's always been kind of in the fray, but we're putting more emphasis on managing this from an emergency management standpoint. So we're coordinating with, we've taken our human services, and our human services and health departments are separate. So our human services director is helping us from an administrative side. Our deputy health director doesn't wanna take on the lead role. She's done it in the past for us, but she's also had some health issues, so we're trying to be respectful of that and her time. So she's filling in with, a lot of the LHO responsibilities, but, that's the other reason why we brought in our emergency manager to kind of help manage and take some of that load off. So we've been doing really kind of that over the last couple of weeks, kind of getting that up and going. And then we've been, probably since, can't remember, Brian, was it July or August, we started a COVID-19 task force. So we've been meeting every other week, although this past week we canceled, but we've been meeting every other week to make sure that our leadership team is kind of on the same page. And we too have been working extensively with our chambers. We put out a Safer and SOC program that, it's a challenge because, you know, you're sitting there, we have about 200 active cases right now. And that's only, it's 0.002%, and it is higher than it's been. But at the same time, you know, we've got a health department that puts out these messages that says, oh my God, we have record cases, and then, you know, that conflicts with our Safer and SOC program, which is really more of a program that we're trying to use with our chambers to make sure that they understand their clientele, especially their businesses, you know, what it is that they need to be doing so they can kind of stay open and remain open. So we're sending out some mixed signals there. So that's been kind of a challenge for us. But one thing that we did early throughout the whole summer, and we wrapped it up about a month ago, is we were working with our chambers doing a kind of an online survey of residents, and we've been using that data we collected to communicate to businesses who maybe if you're walking in and they're not wearing masks or they're not doing the protocols, where we can go and say, this is what your customers want. So if sales are down, you know, this could be why. And if we have a COVID outbreak, of course, we can go in also with the same things, get them cleaned up and get them kind of going on the right track. So it's been a lot of education from that standpoint.
Yeah, I would agree. We concentrate tremendously on education. Whether there's a mandate or not, you still gotta educate people. They just got to.
It's been the name of the game, is education all the way around. I mean, as far as getting this out, I mean, we didn't shut any businesses down in Dodge County as far as restaurants, but there has been some restaurants closed because of COVID, and it's all over. They don't have help, and so they had to close the door for a while.
And they don't have customers.
Right. Exactly. It's been a challenge. So.
How is, generally, as you go through your budget process here, how has it been affecting your budgets for this upcoming year?
Well, the big question has been the tax estimate, sales tax estimate. You know, and what number do you have and what number you're gonna use. And so that's probably the biggest question we've had with our budget as well, of course, is trying to balance it where you're gonna cut and things like that.
Well, I'm sure in SOC, the sales tax is a big chunk.
That's
Yeah, well, in our previous board, we've always, over the years, tried, you know, you guys all know Marty Krieger, I think. When he was chair, we're always kind of respectful of taking a lower forecast than what they were getting. It was done intentionally, and so when we've run into periods where there's been economic downturns, we've been okay. But this previous board in the last budget maxed out that forecast at, I think it was $9.8 million. And so we've been fortunate if we look at sales tax comparatively to the previous year, yeah, it's off, and it doesn't look bad, but when you apply that against our budget, we're almost $1.5 million, you know, off budget protection. So back at, I think this was in July as well, we actually cut $2 million off of the budget for this year so that we could, because we were forecasting that would be our loss. So that put us in a pretty good spot. And then, you know, going forward next year, we're looking at maintaining a lot of those cuts because we're not confident that the sales tax is gonna come back, but we're taking the low end. I think they're saying about 9.1 million for us, which I don't know how the Dells gets back open again, and that's, you know, the primary driver of our revenue.
Sure.
And it's been, you know, and it's tough, I mean, when you sit there and you watch Tommy Bartlett, who's been in business for 85 years, and they shut their doors.
Well, he shut the water show, I think,
He's done.
the exploratorium and all of it.
It's all done.
Well, the one thing I think that is on the horizon that will leave it a little bit golden is the fact that once we do have a vaccine, we can open back up. People are starving to get out and do stuff. And we may be in the other end, be overrun.
Look at our state park.
You know, oh, yeah. I mean, our county parks have been absolutely filled, because, especially when the state parks had limited attendance, where our county parks became so much more valuable to everybody. Got a lot of emails from people saying, look, we didn't even know these county parks existed, but these are really nice. Well, thank you. Glad you could visit. But the other thing that seems to come up with us is what to do about but just in the short term here. So we gave everybody's getting, as far as our, right now, 1% raise, but we're holding on step increases until 6 months in. And if we're looking okay financially, then we'll go back and deal with the step raises. But at least we gave everybody a COLA. And the other thing is we've held some positions open until we know where we're at. We've had some people retire and this and that, and we haven't filled them. Although they're on the books, we didn't take them off the books. But some of it is a great, whenever this happens, we had 3 department heads retire. And one was land water conservation, one was our land information office. And so we're looking, is there ways that we can create some efficiencies here, or things like that at the same time? But we're still sitting with them open, and time will tell.
Well, speaking of the sales tax issue, before COVID, one of the things I was always complaining about was the limited tax base in Waushara County. Now it's turned out to be a blessing, because sales tax revenue was not a big part of our revenue. It's mainly property tax, which is stable. But oddly enough, our sales tax revenue has gone up because Waushara County isn't a commercial center. It's a commuter county. On the east side, everyone goes to Oshkosh and to Fox City to shop. On the west side, they get on 51, they go up to Plover, Rapids, Point to shop. People are staying close to home, so our revenues have gone up, although it's not gonna make much of a difference. But what we've done from the expense side is we've taken a position, a hard line, that we're not gonna have any layoffs or furloughs, because we already have a hell of a hard time recruiting and retaining talent as it is. So we want to be able to have a way to show people that we're gonna support them. But our employees, and God love them, because I haven't received any complaints, and these are obviously the non-union employees, have not necessarily agreed, it wasn't a formal thing, but have not complained about a 0% wage freeze. And we also have a hiring freeze, but a lot of the positions, for instance, in human service, corrections, public health, obviously, we are filling those positions. But we've been able to go ahead and to have next year's budget. We've taken about $650,000 out of our cash reserves. We have about $9 million there. So we've been able to go ahead and keep services and operations steady. The bad part is, we're doing 0% for 21, but the CPI is projected to be 0.6%, 0.6% for 20, primarily because of the economic slowdown. So it isn't going to hurt people as much as it normally would be. But the bad part is I've made promises where, obviously to the civilian employees, we're in negotiations with our ambulance, our EMTs, and I'm trying to get them to also take 0% for 21. But Donna back here is gonna have a headache, because in 22 and 23, we're gonna have to make up that ground, it's gonna be a sizable bite. You gotta vote on it, not me.
I just said I'm retiring.
Freeze wages for only so long.
Yeah, no, you can't. It becomes counterproductive, and that's why we didn't want to do the layoffs or the furloughs, because that's just, short term, it's okay, but long term, it does a lot of damage.
Yeah, we didn't do any.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I do know that some places have done that, and I think it's a bad move.
Yeah, we pretty much, we did the same thing. If we had vacancies, we just didn't fill them.
Correct.
And when I look at our budget next year, I think, you know, we're pretty proud of the fact that there won't be any furloughs, and
Yeah.
we were able to, we actually are honoring our step increases and also doing a small, COLA increase, to go along with it, just because, like you said, we don't wanna fall far behind in that platform, but at the same time, I mean, they're the ones we're responsible for as our employees, and so we have to make sure we take care of them as best as we can, and, that means that our department heads have had to kind of really respond in other areas to make sure we don't hurt any programming, but to make sure that we're being as tight as we can be.
Well, and I think it's really, really important from a county standpoint, that when you have a crisis like this, that your government functions and it functions well, because it's gonna follow us. I mean, what happens when it gets bad enough? The cities and the townships need you too. You know, and it's just, somebody has to be there functioning.
Right, and-
Functioning well.
And I always tell people, we're not like the private sector. The private sector, you have an economic downturn, they cope, they have less demand, so they cope by producing less and slashing staff. Us, when
Just
there's a
the opposite.
downturn, our demand for our services goes through the roof. So that you exacerbate the problem by cutting staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, here in Dodge County, you know, we budgeted the sales tax pretty conservatively, you know, over the years, so we have a sales tax fund balance and then use it after we have it. And our sales tax, like you, is actually up. I think it's because of the online sales and.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
And that's actually coming to us now instead of, you know, to the retail in Madison or wherever, so that part is good. One of the things we're looking at doing, with the reduced interest rates is we're looking at, borrowing to do road construction, since the interest rate is lower than the cost of, increase in material, and we think it's a good time to, get the roads caught up and, well, closer to caught up. And, so that's gonna be probably our biggest issue at the budget at county board, so.
Yeah, you know, and there's an old saying, never let a crisis go to waste. Because of the interest rates, we're gonna be undertaking a buildings renovation project. This is the time to borrow money and fix the place up.
And we're in the same boat. We have our budget hearing coming up, this public hearing, we do that separate from our county board meeting on a completely different night. But we also, when we have that, we can add some extra things on, because we generally don't get a huge crowd at that. You know, pretty much people's eyes glaze over when the numbers start. But anyway, we're looking at $33 million for borrowing for our courthouse and jail renovation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because it's just time, and we can borrow it over the next 3 years and we wanna get the first portion borrowed on this year.
Good.
And, but it's just gotta be done, and,
It does.
I've had people ask me, you know, and I know you guys have a pretty old courthouse up there. And ours was built in the '60s, but there's no fire alarm system in it,
Oh,
at a public building.
yeah.
Right now in our building there, if there's a fire, the fire alarm is somebody running down the hall yelling, "Fire, get out." There's no fire suppression.
Nobody doing that, yeah.
No, none of that.
Yeah.
And we have an old IT building that's across the street, built in the 1880s. We're gonna tear that down, make it a parking lot, put an addition on, move IT within the building with its own fire suppression system, because you can't use water on that. And, you know, so it's a lot of stuff that needs to be done over the years. And people say, well, you know, Russ and I were talking about that earlier, you know, why didn't you do that years ago? You didn't. Well, yeah, ask your grandfather. Why didn't you?
They didn't do it years ago because it's easier to do nothing than do something. And I said at the presentation on this, that because we didn't spend thousands of dollars a year in the 80s and the 90s, now we have to spend millions.
Yeah. Yep. And a lot of the stuff you can't get parts for anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we're ordering parts for some of the air exchangers off of eBay, you know, because they just aren't made. And it's just time.
That's who outbid you.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it, so when I get a hard time from somebody, I'll say, well, Jefferson County's doing
Absolutely.
So,
We're-
and I heard that they're not crazy down there, so.
Yeah, and it's just time, you can't get money any cheaper, so you gotta go after it when you got the opportunity. And we don't owe much, we got, our bond rating's
Neither
pretty
do we,
good.
yeah.
So we're in good shape, we just owe some on our highway shop that we built, and we now borrowed about 7 million last year, because we're putting in a brand new, communication system for the whole county. Which, again, that's where we having a lot of parts off of eBay, some of it was still analog, and that was horrible, so that's why it was a pretty big deal.
One of the things that we're finding is, our highway department, the townships are finding it harder and harder to find anyone to plow for them. So we kind of started taking on those projects. In fact, I think it was 2 years ago, one of the townships was going to abandon their roads because they couldn't find anybody to plow it, so we would have had to plow it anyway. So we've been taking these townships, and of course, with that, we gotta hire more people, buy more trucks, but eventually, and they have to make a deal, if we do their plowing in the winter, they have to give us a like amount in summer work, so that we can keep everybody busy, but our highway, department seems to be handling it very well. Of course, now, not so much, because we've had some COVID cases, thank goodness now, before the snow flies, and, so,
That's exactly why we got out of the business of doing this.
yeah.
Because they wanted that winter work done and no summer work. And we eventually said, we aren't doing this for you townships anymore.
Yeah.
Either it's all or nothing, but you don't get to pick and choose here.
No.
And because, so we ended up downsizing our department for that reason.
We did that several years ago, and now, they're, like I said, they're having a hard time finding anybody, but they have to guarantee us the summer work. It's
Mhm.
right in the contract.
And Donna mentioned, right now, we're having a bit of a rough time with people either having COVID or being exposed to COVID and quarantining them. For highway, for the summer road work, you can put that off. But my nightmare, what keeps me up at night, is if this is gonna happen during a heavy snow situation, and you can't put that off, you've gotta get that off the roads.
That's gonna be the challenge.
That is, and that's what I'm sweating bullets over.
Yep, that's gonna be the challenge. I think Dodge County only plows for two townships and well, they don't do them villages anymore either, do they?
I don't think so.
No, just 2 townships is all they got left now. That happened back in the 80s already, they kinda shut them all off originally, except for a few. But they pay a fee to have them plow
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
up front that they don't get back, so.
Well, it's almost like you gotta be on standby, can't be in a,
Right.
because you have to be.
And it's getting harder and harder to find people that want to take that job too.
Right.
That they have to be out at midnight or whatever, and
Right.
start plowing.
I got a township, I was town chairman, and I got 3 plows on the road, and it's to be more of a challenge every year.
Yeah.
We got a couple pretty good guys that are out there plowing, and we got a couple more, so. But it gets to be a challenge.
It does.
Any other comments? Columbia County, you got any comments over there, Vern?
We're all doing about the same thing all the other counties are doing. The only thing I'm mad at is that our county health officer put her retirement papers in and in the process of trying to find somebody else to take that place. My question to the other counties that had trouble hiring county nurses,
Oh, yeah.
we had 2 openings, and we just can't fill them. And, so I was just wondering if anybody else has that problem too.
I think, Vern, everybody in the country has that problem. There was a nursing shortage even before COVID hit.
Yep. Every hospital's looking for.
Yeah, I understand that. I thought I'd throw it out there.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
All right. All right. Any other county issues we wish to talk about? The pain will be over in 2 weeks, tomorrow, we hope.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're on to the next thing.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jefferson County, November 16th, next meeting. So,
What was that date, Russ?
November 16th.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss, what went well with the election, what didn't, what ideas we do. I did have a brief conversation with our county clerk, last week to ask her if she'd be willing to come in for 20 minutes to a half an hour to explain her situation. But how do you guys wanna do this? Other people wanna bring their county clerks, or does UWX wanna get somebody to talk about this, or how do you wanna set it up?
well, we'll invite our county clerk, and if she can make it, we'll bring her down.
Otherwise, maybe you can get the phone set up down there, so they could call
Yeah,
in.
because we would do it at, the UW extension like we always have. Where, you know, you know where that lower room is, the UW extension there. So, and that it's all set up for whatever we need.
Okay. I mean, if you get the,
We can do phone, we can do Zoom.
yeah, we can get, so we get a phone call to call in beforehand.
Mhm. But, it might be worthwhile if everybody wants to have the county clerk come along and everybody can have a discussion. Well, this went well for us, this didn't go well for us. If I could get this in my budget, we could do this, et cetera, et cetera. I think those all things to plan, because next year's the year to plan. We don't have a lot of big elections the upcoming year.
Could be two only.
What's that?
There's only really, this could be a primary in February and then April, that's it for next year.
Yeah, and,
That's something special.
yeah, so I think that's the year to get our ducks in a row. Because, you know, honestly, folks, this isn't gonna be this last pandemic we have.
No.
And what can we learn from this?
I'm a municipal clerk and I do, training for UW Green Bay, and we just did I think we had about 150 participants with municipal clerks, kind of doing a brainstorming for
Mhm.
COVID, so, you know, hopefully we'll be able to bounce around back with some of those folks and see what happens, but I'd be glad to share what's going on too.
Okay, so then rather than getting an outside expert, we'll just have our own clerks do our program and just talk to us about it. But I'll have Audrey kind of lead it, and she can come up when she's willing to do that.
All right,
Excellent.
all right. Is there any other questions, comments, or? All right, then we declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you on the phone.
All right, thanks, Russ.
Thank you for hosting us, Russ.
What's that? Help yourself to coffee and donuts.
Try to shove those doors down the phone lines, but it doesn't.
I was on track to be early, and then I ended up late, because I went, I gotta go back and get her kids. I went home. That's why.
Is now
Yeah, I kinda looked at it and I went, I gotta go back.